Hope you're having a good Thursday, Central Georgia. Welcome into kind of my in-depth and extended forecast where we break down a little more details on tonight's potential for some scattered storms and also some showers, because it's been about 3 days since we've received some rain, and obviously the past weekend, really the past couple of weeks have been very active severe weather-wise. So I want to give you all the details about what we're potentially going to see as we head into the overnight hours. Going to start with a few small tweaks that we've seen to the information that I've showed you the past 2 days. We now have official confirmation with the Bibb and Twiggs County tornadoes. Nothing did change, but we were still waiting on the National Weather Service to look over all their information that they had available. Still remains at an EF1 with 90-mile-per-hour winds, and the track 7.94 miles does remain the same, just below 8 miles as it touched down in the Bond Swamp area, moved into the southern southeastern tip of Bibb County, cross Highway 23, I-16, the Segota Road area, and eventually continued its track into Twiggs County before it finally did dissipate just to the south of Dry Branch in northwestern Twiggs County. And then we're going to take a look at our aerial flood warnings. This is something that we've continued to see trimmed down in central Georgia. Right after we got all the rain, we had aerial flood warnings along the Okmulgee, along the Flint, and the Oconee. Well, the only one that does remain is now on the Oconee, on the cluster of northern Lawrence County into western Johnson County, and then Wilkinson County and Washington County. The river levels are still a little bit higher. So if you do live in any areas near the Oconee River, in those counties I did just highlight, make sure that obviously you're still not driving through any standing puddles of water and such. In those low-lying areas near the Oconee River and its surrounding tributaries are still the areas that are running pretty high water levels. So sunny sky takeover, that is what we are dealing with this Thursday afternoon, getting into the afternoon at least. Clear blue sky remains the story for yet another day on all of our sky cams. This is down in Warner Robins at CGTC on Cohen Walker Drive. So taking a look down Cohen Walker Drive, traffic flowing smoothly, many people out and about and getting their daily routine started. Temperatures are in the upper 50s. I actually only see one upper 50 now that I'm looking at it over in Thomaston. Everyone else is 60 plus on the temperature map. And we're actually going to warm up a little bit warmer than the last couple of days. The first above average day in quite some time, at least a couple of days, because we have been hovering below average with the cloud cover and the rain and the cooler air that filtered in behind the cold front on Monday. So you can see that the colder air does remain really just due north of us. Over towards the west, we're continuing to see warm temperatures in the 60s. Areas that have been relatively cold as of recently, like Oklahoma City, Wichita, getting into Kansas City, their temperatures are pretty similar to what we're doing here in central Georgia. So the southern portion of the country, the deep south, the southeast are all running relatively warm. And of course, Florida always the outlier, somewhere in the 70s or the 80s virtually each and every day. So satellite and radar picture, taking a look at what's going on from higher up in the sky. So we do have some cloud cover up in North Georgia, and we'll go into why they're seeing some cloud cover in just a minute. And then off the Atlantic coast of the state of Georgia, we see a cluster of some showers right here and maybe some clouds that are moving in offshore, or that could be fog that's kind of just continuing to rise up. Some areas towards the coast can get a little bit foggy on some slightly humid mornings and if you still have any remaining water at the surface. So high pressure centered right over Augusta, how accordingly for the first day of the Masters today. But we do have this system up to the north of us right now. And I know it looks like a lot, so we'll kind of break it down piece by piece. Basically, these low pressure centers up to the north of us are going to have cold fronts that are going to be to the left of them as of right now, but they will continue to sag down towards the south. So front number one is going to be driving all of this showers and storms right now up to the north and the northeast of us. And it's probably made a little bit farther progress since I did draw these boundaries right here. However, you see the stationary boundary up here attached to the low. That's going to kick into gear, and that's going to be front number two. So this first front is going to drive maybe a few showers in the northern portion of the state. However, not really looking at a severe weather potential with that. However, the second frontal boundary is really going to push all that into gear across the state of Georgia as we go into the overnight hours into early morning tomorrow. And that's going to have more to work with in terms of instability and in terms of moisture. So for your forecast for today, it will be a dry day. So any plans you have for your Thursday late afternoon into the evening are still going to be good to go, but the potential for storms will exist once we go into the nighttime hours, starting as early as about 10 p.m., but models have been trending a little bit after that. And the winds going to be out of the southwest today An occasional gust up to 15 miles per hour is possible throughout most of the day, and then I put gusts up 20 plus miles per hour as we go into the overnight hours associated with some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms. A high temperature of 78, so climbing 2 degrees above average. Like I said, the first day that we've been above average since probably last Saturday when we were still flirting with the 90s. So just a little bit above average, still going to feel very spring-like in central Georgia. So taking it through future view, let's go all the way throughout today, and we put a lot of pause points on here because we're going to go hour by hour. Clear skies by the time we're heading to 3 p.m. this afternoon. You'll see rain up to the north of us. However, it doesn't start to push into maybe our northernmost counties here in central Georgia until about 9 p.m. We'll take it all the way to 10 to 11. And all of this up here, farther up to the northwest, that's what's really going to make its presence known in central Georgia tonight. 11 p.m. starting to creep into these northern and northwesternmost counties, and obviously seeing some dark reds and some pockets right there. Those are probably going to be your isolated severe thunderstorms that are back over into Alabama. And continuing to play it forward, the midnight hour, still seeing maybe some clustering together, maybe a little bit of organization amongst this line. However, I do believe it's going to be fairly broken. It's not going to be a very organized line where you have heavy rain at the start, and then once that moves through, you're going to see that rain get lighter and lighter. That's what most of our systems have been doing as of recently, but still a good spread and a good coverage of precipitation at the very least. This is going into 1 a.m. Now we go to 2 a.m. And what you're noticing is any of those dark reds really fizzle out in color. They start to turn more so into the orange, into the yellow, and into the green. Well, green, yellow, and orange are going to be lighter rates of precipitation as opposed to the dark red, and then even getting into the pink sometimes when the rain rates are really, really heavy. So we are noticing a weakening trend as this comes through till about 2 a.m. 3 a.m. really falling apart, not even holding together as well across the entirety of our area. And we do continue on to 4 a.m. and then 5 a.m. and then 6 a.m. And by about 6 a.m., this should be moving out. Maybe if you live in our far southern and southeastern counties, you could still be holding on to some lighter, some steady showers. However, the rain does look like it gets less and less heavy as it makes its progress through the area. And that makes sense because that's the overnight hours, and we continue to talk about it. That's a cooler portion of the day, so that front doesn't have as much to work with as it would if the temperatures were at their warmest around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. That would also have a lot of surface heat, and that's really fuel to the fire when it comes to these frontal boundaries during the spring severe weather season. So noon on Friday, nice and mostly clear skies. So Friday, for a majority of it, is going to be a very, very nice day. However, you start to see the winds pick up on the backside of that main wave of rain moving through, and just due to the circulation and that low pressure center going to be just to the north of us, so we're going to get that wraparound circulation, and what that's going to do is still propel a little bit of moisture for some scattered showers, maybe even hearing a couple rumbles of thunder. However, there's no severe weather risk associated with this wraparound rain that we're going to see starting probably around 3, 4, and 5 o'clock for your Friday afternoon. Then as we go into the late afternoon, more so evening hours, I guess by 7 p.m. Still seeing some scattered rain linger, but by the time we head into the nighttime hours, all of that rain breaks apart, and that leads the way into a clear night for your Friday, or at least mostly clear. Some clouds try to hang around, but we go through all of Saturday into early morning Sunday, just some passing clouds here and there. It is going to be a beautiful weekend. Just that one blemish as we go into Friday afternoon, and of course, the main focus, which will be overnight tonight into tomorrow. So that was one model. That's our graph model that we show you each and every day during our shows. Let's take it to the high resolution model, which we like to kind of double check our forecasting in order to see what's going on. So this model puts a lot more pink on some possible severe thunderstorms, some stronger weather. So that's what you will continue to see to the north and to the northwest of us. This is 10 p.m. coming in around the midnight hour, not seeing any clusters of the pink, but we still do see a little bit of dark red here and there up to the north and the northwest as you go farther north on I-75. Taking it to 2 a.m. now, still holding together with pretty good organization, but seeing some steady clearing in that dark red color, transitioning into those green colors, those yellow colors, indicating that the rainfall rate is not going to be as heavy. And some rain does try to linger until about 4 a.m., even into the 8 a.m. hour. That would be around sunrise, so temperatures would start to try to warm up a little bit at this point. And then we see it move out of the picture. So it does look like we continue to see that weakening trend. It's about the same timing, not exactly down to the same hour. So I have put 10 p.m. right now just to cover the bases. I think that's the earliest that this rain and the potential storms could move through. And this is picking up on that wraparound moisture with some scattered rain throughout your Friday afternoon into the evening hours. It's saying that the rain's going to hold on a little bit longer. I'm not sure I really buy that. I think the rain will start to fizzle out by about the 11 p.m. hour. So those models have constituted a severe weather risk here in central Georgia. Again, it's spring. It's the severe weather season. We're pretty used to seeing these outlooks, and it is good to see mainly a level 1 here in central Georgia. So you draw a line from western Dooley County up through most of Houston, most of Twiggs, most of Wilkinson County, all the way up to the west and northwest edges of Washington County. Take that and go all the way up to the northwest. Everyone under there is under some form of a severe weather risk. However, a level 1 is a lot lower than what we've seen with recent systems. A level 2 does exist to the northwest of us, but it does begin to clip areas like Lamar County, Upson County, a little bit right there up into Monroe County. That might be around the High Falls Road area. But still, the consensus is we will see a weakening trend with this system as it pushes through. The potential threats that have been outlined are gusty winds and some large hail sizes. Now, hail has been outlined, but they have given us the guidance that that's really going to be more so with the initial storm. So that's going to be farther up to the northwest. I think by the time that this system pushes through, we're not going to really see much in the way of hail, but it's something to keep on your radar. And luckily, most of you will already be inside with the timing being around 10, 11 to midnight already tonight. But the gusty winds will be associated with some stronger to possibly even some severe thunderstorms with this line. The tornado risk is looking slim to none. However, it is not zero. Taking a look at your tornado parameter, probably the lightest shade that you can see, these very, very light gray areas to the northwest of us. I don't even think any of them push into central Georgia, so it doesn't look like all the features are there to sprout any potential tornado warnings or some spin-ups. However, they have outlined that maybe it could happen. This is just what one model run does say for our tornado parameters. So it's obviously something that we'll continue to monitor just like we have with the last couple of systems, keeping a close eye on that velocity. And we'll already be doing that to kind of give you a judgment of some wind speeds if we do have any severe thunderstorm warnings. And then along with these, obviously storms, they classify as seeing some lightning, hearing some thunder, so you may get awoken by a rumble of thunder or two. But unless you see a warning on your phone or you see us on 13 WMAZ Plus, our Facebook streaming about a severe thunderstorm warning, that's just going to be a lower end thunderstorm. It's not going to possess the winds that can really do some damage. And we'll take the tornado parameter all the way out to Friday afternoon. Still not looking impressive whatsoever. So your future view wind gusts, when do those winds start to pick up? Well, they will begin to pick up this afternoon, maybe a steady gust about 15 miles per hour at times. But then when that line of rain pushes through sometime around 10 to 11, and we got a model update on this because my pause point isn't exactly correct, you'll start to see some of these red shaded areas, and in very local areas, if you do have a stronger storm, those gusts can get up to about 50, 55, even 60 miles per hour, especially if it does get the severe thunderstorm classification. But those winds aren't going to be widespread by any means. It does look like they try to pick up as we go throughout the overnight hours with this line of rain pushing through. So obviously you will have your fair share of wind gusts. Whether they're going to be of the damaging threshold is still to be determined. And I do believe, once again, if you do see some very gusty winds or you hear some gusty winds overnight tonight, that's going to be farther up to the north on the I-75 corridor. But the winds will still be a factor after this rain moves out. That wraparound circulation I was talking about, going to make conditions pretty gusty as we go throughout Friday afternoon into your Friday evening. Even some gusts up to 20, 25 miles per hour. That's obviously going to play a role up here in Augusta for the second round of the Masters tomorrow afternoon. However, it's just going to be kind of a windy day. Temperatures will still be pretty nice, somewhere in the low 70s, a pretty perfect spring-like day. But these winds will also kind of be paired up with those scattered showers that I was talking about too. And then we go overnight into Saturday morning. The winds start to die down a little bit, but they are still kind of noticeable, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So let's talk about the temperatures real quick. 78 for a high temperature today, and then we will get down into the lower 70s tomorrow, upper 60s on Saturday. So this front is going to push through, and once again, just like the front from earlier this week, usher in some cooler and some drier air, and that's going to really drop the morning lows down, which I'll show you after this. But then after Saturday afternoon, more so Sunday morning specifically, because that's when our temperatures get the coldest. That's when we will see the upward trend in the temperature department. 73 on Monday, and then we're back to the 80s. We haven't been in the 80s since last Saturday. We will be back to them for a brief period on Monday. But what you probably want to know is those morning lows, because it was chilly this morning, it was chilly yesterday, and it was chilly the day before. Tomorrow going to be a little bit more pleasant, somewhere around 50 degrees for the lowest temperatures in central Georgia. Maybe a tad bit warmer depending on where you do live, mid-50s. No complaints whatsoever to walking out the door too. 42 as you wake up on Saturday morning, and then 39 back into the upper 30s just like we did yesterday morning on Sunday. Again, my kind of rule of thumb is the second night after that front does pass, that's when it is going to be the coolest. So the first night is going to be Saturday because this front's going to pass overnight tonight, and it won't clear until we get sometime into the day tomorrow. So the first night going to be Friday night into Saturday morning, going to be chilly, but then the cooler of the two nights will be Sunday morning. So Saturday night into Sunday morning, going to be quite chilly, worth noting, and definitely have some layering on if you're going to be out later into the night, into really past the midnight hour when those temperatures start to drop, and then we start to rebound back into the mid 40s. Playing your long range future view very, very quickly right here. We do have another front on its way. It will be sometime earlier in the day, maybe into the afternoon on Tuesday. Rain chances are not impressive whatsoever. I showed this a little bit yesterday. Some scattered sprinkles, some scattered showers, whatever this may be, and the GFS has still been the only one picking up on it. So we've remained at the confidence that about a 10% chance of rain will do the trick this far out. As we get closer, we'll get better resolution on the short range models, and we'll see how this does pan out. But whether it does send a lot of rain or a little bit of rain, it will also, once again, usher in cooler and drier air from the north, and that's going to drop the temperatures back down after we briefly rebound into the 80s. And then future view goes all the way out to next Thursday. Some form of weak system trying to form over to the west. Need to see a lot more agreement to even figure out exactly what this is, because just given the shape of it, it's a little bit hard to tell as of right now, but that's as far as future view does go. So, recapping the main things that you need to know, the three main takeaways with tonight's storm potential, and I haven't mentioned a couple of them, but the window I'm giving it 10 p.m. tonight until 4 a.m. tomorrow. That's really just covering the later bases of when possibly we could still be seeing some strong to severe weather, even though rain may linger past that 4 a.m. hour till about 5, 6, or 7 in the morning. I don't believe it's going to be of the severe criteria. It's more light and steady showers. The main severe weather threat is mainly in the 6 to 10 p.m. window this evening. So I was showing you those model runs. That rain and that line of storms hasn't even pushed into central Georgia just yet by 10 p.m. So after 10 p.m., that severe weather potential will continue to decrease pretty rapidly. And it's mainly going to be to the northwest of us, but we could see a couple of stronger or severe storms that try to push those warnings possibly into our northwesternmost counties. That's what I ultimately do believe what will happen with this. We may have a severe thunderstorm warning or two, possibly even 3, and those warnings will trek into our northernmost counties. However, they will continue to weaken, and that's probably the only warnings that we will get. And you'll probably get awoken by a couple rumbles of thunder, but not going to probably be of the severe criteria, just a lower end thunderstorm. The main impact to look out for with any of the stronger weather will be your gusty winds, even up to 60 miles per hour if it is a severe thunderstorm, and possibly some hail with those strong and severe storms. However, I'm not really buying the hail threat. Like they said, it's looking more like it's the initial storms that fire up, and everything that I've looked at goes along with that guidance as well. Anything that we do see in the way of hail will probably be more so to dime to penny sized hail. Areas up to the north and the northwest could even be dealing with ping pong to golf ball sized hail back up in North Georgia and northern Alabama. Go about your normal nightly routine tonight, but make sure you just have a way that your ringer is going to be turned on if you do receive any severe weather warnings that occur. I do know that the Bibb County EMA is doing a weather radio handout today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. I would definitely suggest stopping by at one of those times that they are handing out the weather radios and all of the things that you need for your severe weather safety kit to have that plan in action, as we are still continuing about this severe weather season, because I've seen a lot of people talk about, I didn't hear the tornado sirens. Well, number one, those aren't meant for you to be heard within your house. They're meant for people outside to hear those tornado sirens. So don't rely on the sirens. You can rely on us. We'll be posting our warnings and we'll be going live if we do have any severe weather warnings. However, a weather radio is always going to keep you informed. So having a way to receive those warnings, like we always tell you, is going to be your best bet. But don't let it impact your day. Don't let it give you anxiety. Don't let it put any fear into you because of what's happened recently. Obviously, we're going to be here and we're going to be making sure that you're staying updated, because we have seen level 1s pan out with even possible tornado warnings or even severe thunderstorm warnings. That's what the level 1 is. It may be the lowest on the scale, but it still means that severe weather can happen. So we're going to be here just in case, even though my confidence in this is we're going to continue to see that weakening trend, and it's really just going to be a couple rumbles of thunder that might wake you up. But go about your night normally. Make sure that you have a way that will wake you up, but still 10 p.m., 11 p.m. before these storms roll in. Many of you have to get up and go to work tomorrow. Many of you have to get up and go to school tomorrow. So obviously, go ahead and hit the hay and make sure that you do have a way to wake you up if need be. But obviously, if it doesn't pan out where you live, then the last thing you want is to stay up really late and be very tired for school and work tomorrow when nothing, or if nothing does come to fruition. But it's always better to be safe than sorry. Like I said, this is just kind of the typical thing we see in April and May and March when we finally get into that severe weather season. It is a frontal boundary, and we do have some warmer air that is present, so it has a little more to work with than it would during the winter months or the fall months when it's a little bit cooler. So that's where things stand as of right now. Again, I think we'll see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. They could track into central Georgia, but we will continue to see anything that is a little more active and a little stronger in terms of weather get weaker and weaker and weaker as that front does progress down towards the south and the southeast. And just because it does stop raining at one point doesn't mean that it can't pick back up. This is a pretty broken line, so we'll have some gaps in there where it will be a little bit calmer weather, and the gusty winds will be the main thing to look out for this. So if you are wanting to be prepared with that, make sure to secure those loose outdoor items that you do have and that can get picked up and blown away by some gusty winds associated with stronger weather. So thank you for tuning in. That's kind of your in-depth breakdown on what we could see tonight for storm potential. Ben Jones will be in later this evening and giving you the newest update with that. And we'll be making sure that we are here in case any warnings are to be in central Georgia. And we will keep you updated if those do pop up. So thank you for tuning in. Have a terrific Thursday, Central Georgia.